Hello and welcome back to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, we're sitting in front of my paint station. Um, and last time we finished up Hadvar, okay, and I had been cleaning up my apartment, so I was cleaning off my uh, cleaning out my oven. So there was a lot of stuff going on. I had a lot of fans, and I had to go open my window and stuff. Won't be doing that today. So today should be pretty uninterrupted and free. So today we're going to be doing, and I'm trying to remember what this gal's name is. So let me grab. Vanilla Half Elf Rogue. That's who that is. Okay, so that's this one. Okay, so that way, if you want to have the same one, and you want to be able to follow along with us, you are more than welcome to. And again, I'm using her as a proxy for a for an overlord named Lola Darkslip. Okay. I mean, I will be using her as a proxy for that eventually, but I'm just gonna paint her up because I can. I think that's probably the only amount of flash we have on her. She has a lot of stuff on, and I guess that makes sense if she's a rogue. She wants to be able to blend into her surroundings, so she's probably going to be wearing a lot of darker, like leather and stuff like that, which means that's what we're going to color next. When you think about a profession, okay, and be it for Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, um, Shadowrun, even for wargaming, okay, one of the biggest things that you want to think of is how are they going to look when they go to sneak around? What are they going to look at? What are they going to look like? How are we going to make them look, that way? And so, like, for me, I always try to think of, like, what is going to be their, like, are they going to have a tactical aesthetic? Are they going to have, are they going to look a certain way? Because you want to make sure that, like, if you're a rogue, right? What's your primary function as a rogue? Well, your primary function as a rogue is to sneak around and find certain things, look for traps, hide in shadows, that kind of stuff. So how are you going to make that look? And for me, I'm going to go for darker colors, because if I'm hiding in shadows, if I'm hiding from monsters or from my fellow party members, I don't want them to see me. I want my miniature to kind of reflect that. Okay, and I want my mini to look like that, so that people don't go, oh, look, it's a brightly colored rogue. Like, no, I don't want my rogue to look like it, just walked into a party. I want it to look like it's actually trying to steal from the party. Okay, not the party of adventurers. I'm talking about, like, walking into an actual, like, room full of people. That's what I mean by party, is an actual party. So they're not going to be brightly colored because they don't want to give themselves away. Okay. And you can get away with, coloring certain parts of the model in a little bit brighter color because no one's going to care. But the biggest aesthetic that you're looking for in this particular type of character then is, how are they going to look on the table? Okay? And that's why I'm saying, when you're picking your color scheme, think about what job your model is going to do. And so, like, Lola Darkslip being an assassin, hence the reason why I'm using this assassin model, is I'm attempting to kind of bring that aesthetic to the table. Okay? I want my models to look a certain way, and I want them to have a certain aesthetic of, like, oh, they're supposed to be these people that, slip through. Because the overlords of Crayclaw, okay, if you know anything about the world of Aiden, okay, they are the people of the world of Aiden, okay, are very much in the same kind of fantasy tropes as most every other um, world out there, like Dungeons and Dragons, Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, whatever you play. But the thing is that they kind of dial that up. Okay, they kind of play that up, and so, like, Crayclaw is mainly people who are, like, into assassinations and political intrigue and stuff like that. So there's not a whole lot that, like, you as a player, like, if you're going to, say, play in the world of Aiden, because you can role play in that world if you wish, then, like, Crayclaw is a very good city if you want to sneak around and find information and have a lot of intrigue, it's great for that because Crayclaw is mainly humans that are trying to gain power. And how do they gain power? Well, they gain power from trying to outwit and outsmart their competition. Okay? And so, how does that, so how would that fit into this, your paint scheme? Okay? Because there's also, guys like the Onyx Legion that are, mostly black suited armored knights, right? So when you're thinking about, because they come from the country of Malvernus to the north, and one of the things that you have to understand about Malvernus is that Malvernus itself has a different aesthetic than the actual city of Crayclaw because they're not affiliated with it. Even though, I mean, they kind of are, but they aren't. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically, Malvernus is where all of the slaves from the Crayclaw market go. Okay, so the when the slavers buy their goods and they ship them back to Malvernus, okay, the various the various caravans and those kind of things are guarded by the Onyx Legion, and some of the overlords of Crayclaw are in the pocket of Malvernus. Okay, one of those is Marquis Durango, who is a character who's an actual overlord, and she achieved power by she started out in the pleasure districts, and then she kind of killed her way into power by believing in the dark god Cardalus. Okay, Cardalus being sort of a shadow version of our own god who has ultimate power to be able to help with certain things like war and spells and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he is God. I'm saying what he is he's a reflection, because the way that people worship him, they worship him very much as say Jews worship God on earth here. And so that's kind of the reason behind the lore related reason behind why she supports Malvernus, is because Malvernus is governed by Cardalus worship. Okay, they have an inquisitor who's kind of the head of the church of Cardalus, and he has inquisitors that he sends out, and one of these he actually sends down to Malvernus to kind of figure out, or not Malvernus, but to Crayclaw, to try to figure out what's going on down there, because power fluctuates so rapidly that they're all kind of we don't understand why things are the way they are down there. So if you can go down there and figure this out, that'd be much appreciated. So there's an inquisitor named Arik Gix that shows up, and he's actually a playable character in that faction, and he's kind of cool. And so he kind of shows up and is like, hey guys, what's going on? Blah blah blah. And he makes contact with Marquis Durango, and they kind of have some misadventures where they take over some things, and they have some stuff happen, and it's kind of cool. This is lore stuff that is actually when they first came out with the actual game. Okay, it was a hardback book in the first edition, and had kind of a purple cover with Duke Gerard on it with his axe of the heavens and his shield, and then in the foreground you kind of had like a couple of skeletons and Judas Bloodspire. Okay, it was a pretty epic cover, and then they released 5 different faction armies. Okay, that came in a special case that you could use, and then basically you would open it up and you would be able to do stuff, and then with that it came with a soft cover booklet that had like different factions on it. So like one faction was the one faction was your was the Overlords. They had the Revan, they had the Nefsakar, they had the Necropolis, and they had the Crusaders. And those were the 5 factions that they released originally, okay, to kind of coincide with like these booklets. And they did that up until about 2006. The game didn't sell that well, okay? And so what happened is a lot of these books kind of got shoved off to the side. And then what they did is they took all of that information that was in there, and a lot of that they put it up on the website. And then they basically then took all of those new data cards that they had in there. Plus they added in some new data cards because they were always coming up with newer models, with newer things. And then they basically created this free document that they dumped out online called the Rage Chronicles. Rage being the Reaper Adventure game engine, which is what the thing is built on. And they basically released this Rage engine, okay, out into the world. And they released this Rage Chronicles document in 2007. And then, like a little bit later, in late 2008 to early 2009, they decided that they wanted to make a brand new version called Warlord 2nd Edition. And they wanted to try to streamline some things. They wanted to try to move some things around. And so they created this, essentially brand new document of, what they wanted from the different parts. And so what ended up happening was that when they did this, they created a brand new set of rules, and then they released Warlord 2nd Edition. And then in the back of Warlord 2nd Edition, instead of releasing separate army books, they just released a whole bunch of data cards, okay? Revamped data cards because they revamped some of the rules. They revamped the data cards, and then they put in the back some just 2 or 3 sentences on each person, which doesn't give you a whole, it would give you all the data cards, and then in the back, in alphabetical order, right in the back of those data cards, so like say Crusaders, it would say, it would have have like Duke Gerard, and then Lady Christiana, and then Lady Han, and all this kind of stuff. They had all these different people, but then in the back, you would have to go and you have to find it alphabetically. But all it said is for Duke Gerard. I mean, in the original Crusaders book, it was like 3 columns of text on Duke Gerard. Okay, what he believes, why he believes what he believes, why he's doing what he's doing in this world, blah blah blah. And then he turns around and completely throws. They condense that down into 2 sentences or 3 sentences. It was kind of pathetic. I mean, it was like, really, guys? You had one of the best, lore-related things that I've ever seen in a game that, I mean, rivaled Warhammer Fantasy in its heyday. And this is what you guys are going to do with it? You're going to take all of that lore and throw it out? And it just kind of frustrates me because it's it really didn't make the game any better. I mean, in my opinion. In fact, it kind of dumbed the game down. And the other part that kind of floored me about it was the fact that there were a lot of typos. If you go and you get some of those books, you're going to be reading through it, and then you're going to go, wait a minute, Did I just read that? And things where they'll have like names spelled differently, and different things like that. And I'm not saying that Reaper, doesn't. I'm not saying that other books and stuff don't have those kind of problems, but not to the extent that you'll see it in those books. I mean, generally, like I was reading through like a Games Workshop product, and there might be one or two typos in the whole book. And unfortunately, in the Reaper ones, the problem comes in when you have, a ton of typos in on every page. Not on every page, but like you have way more than what it is, and a lot of people see that and they kind of go, "This is unprofessional." And I'm not saying that Reaper isn't, you know, shouldn't be, shouldn't have a few mistakes here and there, but when you have that many mistakes in a product that you're supposed to be selling for 20 or 25 bucks, you know, people feel like they're not getting their money's worth. Okay? And that causes people to kind of say, "Yeah, I don't want to play that because, I just don't subscribe to that kind of, level of unprofessionalism." And it's kind of sad because I think that people would have a much better time playing Reaper than they would playing anything by Fantasy Flight um, or Games Workshop, because like the rules are much easier to understand and they're much more fun to play. Okay, in my opinion, because it's easier. I mean, is it still kind of the you go, I go? Yes, but it's done in a different way where you're using activation cards, so it's not just I get my whole turn where I move stuff and you get your whole turn where you move stuff. It's I have a unit. Like let's say I have a unit of these kobolds, right? Okay. And I have this leader kobold who is going to and so when I draw a card and I look at it and I say, "Oh, that's my kobold unit." Okay, so I'm going to move my kobolds. So then I measure. I don't have a ruler right next to me, but like I measure and then I move my guys. Okay, right? I move my guys. Okay. Then I declare if I want them to attack or if I want them to do something. I declare that, and then we go from there. Okay. Then once I'm done, then we draw another card. Now I could go again, or you could go. Okay. So it's not just an I go, you go. It's not straight up I go, you go. It's a little bit different in that it uses an activation model where somebody gets to go, and it may be you, it may be me, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's not going to be just your typical, "Oh, I get to sit here while so-and-so moves his entire army, and I have to, try to figure out what they're doing and how they're doing it and why and all this kind of stuff." All I have to do is wait a second because it might be my turn next. Okay? So there's a lot less reactionary movement in that respect. Okay? Because there's no like one set initiative where it's like, "Oh, and I mean, don't get me wrong, initiative based, combat works for certain games, and I'd have to say that, things like Middle Earth strategy battle game and stuff like that, it works fairly well. You typically have like the good player and the evil player, um, you know, decide, okay, am I gonna attack or am I gonna do this? How's this work? Blah blah blah. And typically, yeah, I mean, people people have a decent time playing those type of games, and it's fine. Never really had any problems playing games like that. In fact, I mean, some people are like, "Oh, the I Go You Go sucks." Well, sometimes it does, but I mean, for instance, Magic the Gathering sucks. I mean, sucks bad, but there are tons of people that still play it today. So, I mean, there's always going to be some people out there that think that, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, but for me, I like the Warlord system because the Warlord system has a much easier activation system, in my opinion. Okay. Coming up on the end of the first half here. I'm just kind of getting some of these metallic bits out of the way. Once I get these metallic bits out of the way, I'm not quite sure what her boots are doing. I think I'm going to leave those. I'm just going to color them differently. Okay. So, I think what we're going to do is, before we get done here, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this gold colored. There's not much that I want to color gold, but I do want to get this part. I like to get the hafts of weapons and gold hilts and that kind of stuff. Just because it's a little easier. Some of these earlier Bones models have a little bit less detail on them than I'd like, but they're not too bad in terms of what you get. Sometimes the finger details are a little bit less than what I'd like, but it's not that big of a deal. Just do what you need to do, right? Okay. When we get back, we'll finish kind of base coating this gal, and then we'll put some Nuln Oil on, and then, not Nuln Oil, but probably some Agrax Earthshade, some Seraphim Sepia, some different washes, and then we'll see where we're at the end of that. Okay? So, I will see you in less than a second. And we're back. Okay. So, this is the Crusaders faction book for Warlord. Okay? This came out in 2005, I believe. Yeah, December 2005. Okay? And what I wanted to highlight is that this is Duke Gerard's entry. Okay? So you can see how many paragraphs. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, there's 8 paragraphs of text on him. Okay? And then this is the model up here. Okay? And then this was his data card at the time. Okay? This is his entry in second edition. That one little tiny paragraph. So they took 8 paragraphs and tried to condense it down into this. Okay? Which they didn't need to do. I mean, honestly, they could have kept it the same size, or they could have released some kind of army book or some kind of thing like that. Fell on the floor. I'll pick it up in a bit. But you understand what I'm trying to say, okay? I mean, I'm a lore guy. I love lore-related stuff, okay? I love it when they come out with things that make a lot of sense, okay? In lore-related reasons, okay? It makes us, it makes you want to play the game because you see what they do and you see how things work and you kind of go, wow, this is really cool. Like, I really enjoy reading about these characters because they have this, they have this rich kind of history for why they do things. And it was one of the reasons why I chose the Crusaders in the first place, is because I really liked the character of Duke Gerard. I thought he was pretty cool. Thought his reason for why he's doing what he's doing was justifiable in the world at large. And it makes a whole lot of sense. Again, lore related. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about, like, playing this game versus playing something else is, I can get more invested in these characters because of these types of decisions that are made by Reaper, because it makes a lot more sense. And I don't have to do a lot of thinking on, ooh, see, this person's doing this because that's this reason. I know some people like that, but I'm more of a person who likes to be able to sit down and say, why is this person acting this way? Is this lore related, or is this something that, like, this person just does because they can? And that was one of the things that I really liked about Warlord, was that it had a lot of lore-related reasons as to why characters made certain decisions and did certain things, is because it made sense from a lore perspective. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm a lore junkie. That's probably one of the reasons why I make pretty good Star Wars related content. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I was such a defender of, the sequels, is because, it's all down to lore. If you understand the lore related reasons behind why people are doing what they're doing, then, well, it makes a lot more sense. And if you throw lore out, then you're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I can't help you. And it's also the reason why I'm a Christian, is because I believe that, the Bible is our lore. That's why I'm writing my book the way that I'm writing my book on Christian living, is because of that. The Bible is our player's handbook. Hopefully, once I get some more money, I'll be able to write that book, be able to finish it, be able to get it out so that people can read it. Now, one of the interesting things about this model is that she has a little scabbard on the back here that I'm painting currently. And that scabbard has a tiny little hole on the top. Okay. And to make it look like an actual scabbard, you want to make sure that you paint around it. Okay. So that it becomes its own thing. And I don't know if you can kind of, well, it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see where that scabbard is right there. Okay. And on the top of the scabbard, there's like a little indentation. So it's kind of like this. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to paint around the edge, and you're going to leave the indentation black. Okay. And in that respect, it's going to drop the stuff down so that it becomes so that it stays black inside, so that it looks. I mean, because like if you were to take an actual knife and it has a scabbard, okay, and you pull that knife out and you look down inside, is the inside the same color as the outside? Most likely. It might be a little lighter, it might be a little darker, it depends on the type of leather that you're using. But inside, no light goes in there, so you're not going to see it. And you can actually see that, like right now, my hand has a lot of shadow around inside of it, like inside down in here, okay? And so if I were to, like, say, have, a knife down in there, right? If I had a knife down in there, you wouldn't necessarily see it. But if I pulled the knife out, right, the shadows disappeared down inside. So that's why I'm saying that's what you want out of that. Okay. I'm going to deepen a lot of these shadows when we get to the shading stage here. right now I'm just trying to get some of these things. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this little fur trim right around here. What I'm going to end up doing, once we get done shading it, I will come back and highlight that a little bit. Just to kind of lighten it up. Okay. Let's get rid of that color. So I think now what we need is the moccasin, and I believe we'll be pretty much done. The only thing I wasn't sure was how I'm gonna paint her hair, which I might do red. Because here's the thing, Warlord, outside of like some of the official art and some of the painted miniatures that they featured in their original first edition, most of their stuff doesn't have any real like paint scheme to it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, the Crusaders have a very like blue and white or blue and gold aesthetic. Um, you know, like there might be some other types of aesthetics that you can come up with, but like honestly, there's no like one set color scheme. Like, oh my gosh, this is the one color scheme, and this is how it works, and this is the only way that you're going to be able to do it, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, you can paint it how you want it because it's your. Yeah, that's the nice thing about this is that you can paint it the way that you want it to look. look. Okay. So now I take our moccasin color and I'm going to color all of these little straps and stuff. One thing you can never forget about, it's going to be difficult to see on camera, but sometimes you will see that, especially on like leather, there will be little tiny raised like ties that signify that like something is being pulled together or like being held together by like a lace or something like that. And so you want to make sure that when you're doing that, that it looks correct. Okay. Well, I think that's probably good enough. Okay. So just enough time, we should be able to shade this puppy. Excuse me. Okay. What I'm going to do is, instead of trying to, like shade certain parts in Agrax and then shade certain parts in Seraphim Sepia, before I do that, let me do one thing. Okay. Okay. I just needed to make sure that I got her a little hair clasp. I was like, wait a minute, there's a big old dark spot right there. What was I thinking? Okay, so I'm actually just going to do the whole miniature in Seraphim Sepia. It'll just be easier that way. And it'll kind of give her armor a little bit of a rusty appearance, which is fine. It works. Okay. I think we'll probably call that an episode. So when we come back to our paint tutorial, we will do some highlights and get some of that detail filled back in once she gets kind of darkened up a little bit. But that's basically our color scheme, and then we'll paint the base as well. And the base we'll be painting mostly gray because it's stone, and then we'll paint the little skeleton on there. We'll get that done. So smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think of the video so far, and as we say, we will see you on the next one.